Hi guys, this is my first Houdini tutorial. It is aimed at beginners, but we are going to delve into a little bit of X, attribute wrangles, and I will try to guide you along to make it not as scary as it really is. Alright, so we are going to be creating a potion generator. As you could see in the thumbnail, this potion generator, it will create a potion that is totally art directable. So you can have stuff like the max radius of the whole potion. You can, most importantly, you can change the profile of the potion. That's how you're going to get the interesting potions. Additionally, we're going to be able to control the lip radius, all the color, things like that, and the cork. And yeah, by the end you should have something looking like this. Right, so we're gonna hop right in. First we are going to start with a line node. But before that, obviously this is a clean scene, so we need to make a geometry node in the object context. So we're going to make our line now. Most of the time I typically start off of a line for these sort of really procedural workflows. Our line here, you can just control all line things. Make sure for right now, turn on display points. So we want to be able to see the points here. That will be important later on. You can increase, decrease the amount of points, but let's just keep it at 2. All right, so we're gonna make our sweep. Sweeps are incredible. They're a great way to just get going with what you're trying to do. So as you can see, it's gonna give us an error. We can click here, find out what the error is. No cross-section geometry provided. So instead, we're gonna change surface shape to around 2. All right, that gives us a round 2. And the real magic comes from this tick box here. Apply scale along curve, and now we are able to scale it along the curve. Well, you will notice that nothing is happening as I change this. That's because we need to go back into this line node, pop up the samples there. Sometimes you may see people pop down a resample node here. That also works. It does the same thing with a little bit different function, but it's still good to know about the resample node. All right, so we have our sweep. Excellent. Now we basically have the potion maker, right? There we go. Isn't that great? It's not great. As you can see, we get really stuck just between these two distances. There's nothing special about it. Can't do much with that. So with a little bit of Googling, you'll find out that you can control the scale per point with the P scale attribute. So we're going to go ahead and drop down attribute wrangle. To do that, we typed AW and pulled up our attribute wrangle. Make sure it's running over points, and here we're simply going to change the P scale attribute. So define as an attribute, we put that at sign. P scale equals channel. So we want to have this directable just by a simple slider. So to do that, we make a channel, and we can just do CH, or we can do CHF, which is channel float. It's also channel ramp, channel int, all that. But we're going to do channel float, and we're going to call it max circumference. And cool. Make sure you use the correct amount of quotation marks. You can do single or double, just keep it consistent. And as we do that, we see now we're even further behind. Don't know what's going on, but that's because this value here is actually 0. So to give it a value, we're going to click here, and this is going to create spare parameters for each channel function call. And that pop-up is not working for me right now. So we can change the circumference. Now we're back to where we were at, but if we come here, middle mouse, we can tune numbers in Houdini. This is how I always tune numbers. Go down here, These are increments basically. And yeah, we can increase the increment. All right, give it a lot more width, and now we can actually play around with these values and give it some sort of interesting potion-y shape. Let's do that. Looks cool. All right, quick tip. If you highlight nodes and then you hold down the A button, you get this little grid symbol, and you can, while holding down the A button, you can slide down to the left, right, up, and it will intelligently figure out, you know, what you're trying to do here. So like if I want to move that side, but this is how you quickly reorganize, just like that. Perfect. All right, now, next thing we're gonna do is we are going to just go ahead and group the bottom points here. Because although we can throw down a poly fill, because right now we just have an open tube polyfill, it fills the top and bottom. We don't want that. We only want to fill, obviously, the bottom. So for this, we're going to actually throw down attribute wrangle. We're going to do a little bit more vex. Right here, we're going to we're going to be able to control the bottom points just with a slider. To start off with, we want to get the direction of each point. So for each point, making a direction variable, and that direction will be p minus 0, 0, 0. So that's just a vector of 0, 0, 0. You can also do something like set 0, 0, 0, and it will intelligently know that that's a vector. And then we want to normalize that direction vector. So we're going to make another variable called n direction, normalized direction. Boom. Just going to normalize, use the vex normalize function. And then lastly, we are going to actually change the distance for the point here. So again, attribute @ p, that gets us the point position. If you don't know, you should have a geometry spreadsheet somewhere up here. Typically, you're always going to want to pull it down and have it as a separate window, because this actually is the only way to debug what's going on if things are going wrong. But as you can see here, each point has its position. So we're going to take that position, we're going to add n direction times a float distance. So essentially we are moving, we're using that directional vector to scale our point position. And make sure we have a display flag there, and we'll see that we got something going on here. So this is not quite what we want. We don't have the bottom points. So we are going to get the bottom points. There are lots of ways you can do this. A quick way to do it is you can group, throw down a group node. You can get the point numbers by clicking point numbers, and you can see there's 7 points down there. So you could do 0 to 7, and that would give us the bottom points. Make sure you're on points. And that's great. Yeah, it's not the most effective. You could also bring in the sweep, and you can see that 0 to 7 is 8, and that's how many columns we have. So we could always copy this parameter, bring it over here. Actually, we cannot reference it there. My bad. We'd have to use an attribute wrangle, but we don't need to do that. That's superfluous. You can even do bounding regions, but again, that's not the most procedural friendly workflow. So what we're going to do is, we know we want the bottom points, so we're going to use a group expression. It's another fancy node. It seems kind of weird. Make sure you're doing points. And for this, we're essentially just writing a vex expression, but in a different format. I think this is a little bit faster in doing it in an attribute wrangle for these purposes. And we're grouping the bottom, so let's make the group called bottom, and our vex expression is going to be nothing too complicated, but it is going to have some new stuff. We're going to look at the position y of the point, and if that position y is equal to get bounding box, get bb box underscore min 0 dot y, then add it to the group. So what this is it's another vex function, super useful. There's get bb box max min. Obviously, if you want to get the top points, you do max, or you use min. There's even get bounding box center. And quickly, for those who don't know, bounding box is just a box that bounds the current geometry. So it's like this, and that's essentially what it's looking at. That's the bounding box. All right, so now we have our bottom points, and we're going to want to run over those bottom points. So bottom, boom, there we go. Now we got our distance that we can control. We can control the bottom of it now. Nice and clean. More importantly, we can now polyfill it. And you're going to find that when we put down our polyfill, we still can't access that group. So if you hover over this, I think it talks about what input it takes. Again, I don't know why it's not working for me, but in this case, I know that it is looking for boundary primitives, not points. So we have our point group. We can always check it by going here, display groups, and then you can go to points, and you can see, hover over that, you can see your bottom points are selected. So we want to promote those, attribute promote. Actually, we want to group promote that to primitives. So right now they're on points, and we're going to move them to the primitives. So what it's going to do is it's going to grab the primitives that are associated with that point, because a primitive is actually a Houdini only concept. Primitives are made up of vertexes, not points. But it's much easier to understand points in this sort of context. So there we go. We got our bottom points, bottom primitives, boom. Yeah, we filled that hole, not the top. We got our bottom. Alrighty, so next thing we're gonna do is we are going to bevel the bottom, because right now it's pretty harsh. So I'm gonna do a poly bevel. I'm gonna take that bottom again. Make sure you have display node, display flag on there, and we can see we can move a lot of things around here. But we will see that it's not quite doing what we want it to do. I mean, it's doing something, but it's not really what we want. What we want to do is we want to take that bottom primitive that we've made, not the ones we use to fill the hole. So to do that, you'll find that nodes have an output groups section or output attribute, and here we want to get the patch group. So that patch group, I think we'll be able to see it here. Patch, yep, you can see it's our bottom. That's the hole that was filled. So we don't want to use bottom, we want to use patch. Let's get rid of that, it's confusing. Cool, so now we can bevel the bottom. Again, it's not great. We want to add a few divisions to it. Turn off those point numbers because they're probably getting annoying. And now we can have a more smooth bottom area. One thing here, polygons, yeah, we want to change this to single polygon. Forgot to mention that. And that way we have a nice clean bevel, rather than beveling each individual quadrilateral that was made to fill in that hole. Cool, and we probably want to match. That's good. And already we got something kind of cool. So we're going to take this further. Next, we're going to look at the lip. So each sort of, every potion, it has a lip to it. It's like a beaker shape. So we're going to make that lid. So this time we're going to get the top. So I recommend you try to pause the video here and try to get the top points yourself. I'll give you a second to do that. All right, cool. So we're going to, I'm alt dragging this node here, and I'm getting the top points instead of the bottom points. So simple fix, we'll just do group max and change it to top. And then there we go. Got our top points. You can see them highlighted here. So I'm going to move this off to the side, and I'm going to click this button here. This will create a sort of box to surround the nodes in, and this I'm going to call lip, because we're going to start working on the lip. It's going to contain it in here. So to get the lip, we're going to want to delete everything that's not the lip. So that would be deleting points, delete top, that's the group we just made. And we don't want to delete the selected, we want to delete the non-selected. There we go. All right, and then we could go in and sweep this, but I think we'll find that it won't like what we have going on. Yep, because it's just a bunch of points. So we're going to make a line. We're going to fill in those points with a line. So we're going to use the add node here. So add, you can add points, polygons, particles. We're going to add polygons, and by group, the group we're going to add is top. Of course, that's the only points we have right now, so you don't actually need to fill in top. We're going to have it closed. So go back to what this looks like. Creates us primitives between each one, and we can then sweep it like we'd imagine. So you can already see we got our lip. So some people may imagine, you know, why didn't you just use a torus and place it on? That's because when building procedural geometry, you want to make sure you use your pre-existing geometry to build upon it. So that way, when you're modifying, you know, different attributes of earlier on, your early nodes, then it will appropriately react for the rest of the node chain. Cool, so we have our lip. Let's go ahead and just merge that, see what it looks like with the rest of it. Merge node. Ba-doop. Cool, that's pretty good. But we are far from done. Next thing we're gonna want to do is we're gonna add some color. Hopefully you guys have the labs toolset. If you do not, then just go to shelf set. Go to shelf sets, and you should find it under game tools. Just kidding. Go. All right, okay. So go to the plus sign here. We're gonna go to shelves, scroll down, and you will find the side effects lab tab. And I just turned it off and turn it back on. Boop. And it should bring you to here, and you may or may not see anything. And if you don't, just go to update toolset and I press update, and it should bring in all the tools for you. So we are going to use the color labs color gradient. fantastic tool that just gets it looking a little bit more complete than it really is. We're going to add some colors here. Sort of a desaturated blue for that, and a lighter blue, although we don't want it to be that saturated. Something like that. And we probably actually want the lip to be part of the same color. So we're going to add it at the bottom of the merge node after they've been combined. There we go. And even better, this is glass that we're doing here. So we're going to make an attribute wrangle. We're going to set the alpha by simply doing attribute alpha equals 0.6. So that just makes the alpha 0.6. So it looks a lot more like glass. Again, we're slowly creeping towards that final product. Also, I recommend, I forget often, but it's caused me many problems, but specifying the variable type, data type of the attribute by doing f, v, I before your attribute sign. That'll save you a lot of pain when you start doing more complicated things. But this works great as it is right now. Sweet, so we have that, and now you're probably wondering how we're going to get the liquid. So there's, again, like in Houdini, there's a billion ways to do everything. But in this case, we're going to make the liquid by using the Boolean node. Let's go ahead and throw down Boolean. And we just want a Boolean that with, we make a box here. So it's going to look pretty stupid. All right, quick break.